Hey everyone, I'm Lori Kirkstead, and this is The Imposter's Guide to Authentic Leadership, a podcast for new leaders who are ready to stop depending on external approval and start trusting themselves. Now, this series is based on my book of the same name, so if anything you hear speaks to you and you want to go deeper, that's where you should go next for more context and to do all of the leadership activity prompts. Now, this podcast is for people who got promoted because they were great at their jobs and then realized that leadership felt less like an accomplishment and more like starting over. In the last episode, I shared the story behind why I wrote the book, the layoff, the identity spiral, and how I found Dr. Bill George's framework on authentic leadership, which finally gave me the language I needed for what I'd really been experiencing my whole career. So today, we are going to talk about the first of 4 transitions that make leadership feel like an identity crisis for new leaders. And that first transition is what happens when you go from doing the work to leading the work. Now, you probably spent your whole career winning by actually doing. You were fast, you were thorough, you delivered, and for the most part, that's how you got noticed. The feedback loop was clean. It was like effort, output, praise, gold star, do it again. Now, that loop is a big part of how you got promoted in the first place. But then you got promoted, and the loop disappeared. So what do you do now? When you're an individual contributor, your wins are a lot more visible. Like you can point to them and say, I wrote that, I built that, I closed that, I did whatever. Someone says good job and your little brain gives you a big hit of dopamine or whatever chemical keeps high achievers running, and then you do it again. It's like the scoreboard is right there. When you become a manager, the scoreboard changes. Your wins are now your team's wins, which sounds great on paper, but in practice it means that you close your laptop at the end of the day, and sometimes you genuinely can't tell if you did anything. You sat in a ton of meetings. You answered a bajillion Slack messages. You coached someone through a big problem that probably would have taken you 10 minutes to solve, but you sat with them for 45. Is that a win? I mean, it technically is, but it doesn't feel like one. If you are someone who built your sense of self on being the person who gets things done, which, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are, that ambiguity is so uncomfortable. So you do the thing that feels natural and you jump back in and you start doing the work again, and you tell yourself things like, well, the deadline is tight, or this client is difficult, or, it's just faster if I do it, let me handle it. And you're right, it is faster. And that's the whole problem. You're doing a job that isn't yours anymore. So here's an example. I had a writer on my team very early on in my management career. Super talented, really great with clients, but she was still finding her footing when she had to lead the meetings. So we had a client who could be really tough to manage, the kind of person who gave vague direction and acted really surprised when the artifact didn't match the vision in their head. So what my writer delivered was a solid draft, and the client hated it. The thing is, you could feel the tension building on the call, and that just made my anxiety shoot through the roof. So what did I do? I jumped in. I smoothed it over. I took on some of the blame. I promised we'd get it right. I thanked the client for their patience, the whole 9 yards. So what happened is we walked away from that call, and I kind of felt like I did something good because everyone was, quote unquote happy. But if you really looked at the situation, no one was happy. I'd protected my writer, or so I thought, but I really was doing them a disservice. I didn't let them even try. What I had actually done was I taught her 2 things. Number 1, that she couldn't handle a difficult client on her own and that I would always swoop in to rescue her. And I didn't even give her the chance to find her own footing. I just kept catching her before she could fall, which I guess sounds kind, but is actually the opposite. Because you don't learn to handle hard conversations by watching someone else handle them for you. You have to try, and I didn't give her the opportunity. The reason I kept jumping in, and it wasn't like I'm some noble boss, it was really all of my ego and anxiety. Some of it was uncomfortable. If my team struggled, it would reflect on me, but I didn't let them productively struggle. In the end, I guess I was optimizing for my own comfort and calling it leadership when I wasn't really seeing the team or the people on the team as fully capable. So right there, that's the transition I'm talking about. Your job is no longer to produce the work. Your job is to build the people who produce the work, and those are not the same job. The first one has a clear feedback loop, and the second one is more slow and invisible, and the results could show up weeks or I guess even months later, which is long after the moment where you had to sit on your hands or bite your tongue and let somebody actually struggle. Now, before the next episode, here's something worth sitting with. I want you to think about the last time you stepped in to handle something when your team should have handled it. What were you actually protecting? Was it them or was it yourself? Did they really need you, or did your anxiety just spike like mine always did? And it makes you feel like, oh my God, I have to do this. Well, guess what? You don't. You have to let people make mistakes. Didn't you? I did. I made thousands of mistakes. Your job is to let people skin their knees when they make a mistake, not knock their teeth out and get a bloody face, but you still need to let them skin their knee. Okay, so that's it for episode 2 of The Imposter's Guide to Authentic Leadership. In episode 3, we will get into the second transition, which is when you realize that you get to make the big decisions now, but you also get all of the blame, and why accountability is a lot harder than it sounds when your whole career has been really spent keeping everyone around you comfortable and trying to avoid that pit in your stomach feeling of, oh God, am I in trouble? So this podcast is just a peek at the book, which has the full framework by Dr. Bill George and the exercises that go along with it. You can find more information about where to buy it in the show notes, and if you know a new leader who needs to hear this, please send it their way. It really does help get the word out. Okay, so that's really it for episode 2. I'm so glad you're here, and thank you so much for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.